A few years ago, I watched a film called Mustang, which is about five sisters living in northern Turkey's Black Sea region. They got tired of living with their conservative parents and together decided to run away to Istanbul. I could see why they want to escape because they were not allowed to wear bikinis and play football every day. Their parents were furious about them behaving like boys and were eager to wipe them up. But what didn't really add up to me is why they would trade a beautiful seaside town for a crowded, congested metropolis like Istanbul. Go watch the film if you can. The film story doesn't take place in an armpit. Anyway, this November, I finally got the chance to explore the region a bit, as well as its neighbor, Georgia. Good morning from Trabzon, Turkey. Since most of the city is built on the slope of mountains, you can get a view of the sea pretty much everywhere. Although it's called the Black Sea, it looks more like a lake on the map. The salinity of its water is only half of the ocean's, which explains why it doesn't have the typical smell of the sea here. What will get into your nose is the smell of tea and tea shops because the Black Sea region alone produces almost all of Turkish black tea. One of the main reasons for the high tea consumption in Turkey is that coffee beans do not naturally grow in the country and had to be imported. Mustafa Kemal himself promoted tea growing and drinking in the country 100 years ago, and the Black Sea region of Karadeniz turned out to be ideal for growing tea. The tea industry in Rize, therefore, is closely related to the father of modern Turkey. You won't miss its giant teacup glass building when you enter Rize. There was strong opposition when the Rize government had to relocate the old Ataturk statue in order to make room for this iconic but rather controversial building. The role was also political because Rize has long been an AKP stronghold. The AKP leader and current Turkish President Erdogan was born near the city, and his images are everywhere. The next day, I drove a rental car up to the mountains. There are two plateaus like to check out, but I didn't make it to the top due to the icy road condition. Nonetheless, I was happy just to take in the scenery while making frequent stops for photos. The entire region is lush green even in winter. It has plenty of waterfalls and charming roadside towns. The whole day, in fact, was a good break from the hustle and bustle of the urban areas. To visit Georgia, I had to cross the Sarp-Batumi land border. Seeing this curvy-shaped building at the Georgian border, my first impression of Georgia is definitely a bit funky. Georgia shares nothing in common with the state of Georgia in the US. The 3 million Georgian population speak Georgian, a language unrelated to any other languages. While the state Georgia is famous for peaches, the country Georgia was declared the birthplace of grape cultivation and winemaking. The state Georgia is famous for the rolling hills, while the country Georgia is surrounded by rocky mountains and snow peaks. The Caucasus Mountain is rich in silver and gold. This golden headdress dates back to the 4th century BCE. In ancient time, the Georgian people used to center around the eastern coast of the Black Sea, so they were known to the ancient Greeks and were even mentioned in their mythology. But with the rise of the Seljuk Turks in the Middle East and Anatolia, Georgia lost contact with the Mediterranean world and became an outpost of Christianity, isolated for over 1,000 years. experience of being isolated for 1,000 years wasn't very fun. Today, Georgia ranks high in Economic Freedom Index and has normal relationships with all its neighbors. For example, if you want to go from Turkey to Armenia, you have to take a detour via Georgia. If you want to go from Armenia to Azerbaijan, again, you need to go via Georgia. This giant circular monument was built in 1983 to celebrate the friendship between Soviet Russia and Soviet Georgia. Ironically, half of the mountains we see now have been occupied by Russia since 2008. From my conversations with local people, I feel they're quite pragmatic when it comes to Russia. They do share a long common history, and to my surprise, most of the Georgians can speak Russian. Nowadays, the average rent in Tbilisi, the capital city, tripled since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. The highway to Russia has never been this busy, since most of Russia's land border with Europe is closed. On our way to the Kazbeki Mountains, I saw planes from Kazakhstan, Iran, Turkey, and all over the places waiting in miles-long queue to enter Russia. Being a transit hub means opportunities for Georgia to attract businesses and investments. 20 years since the Rose Revolution, Georgia has shifted gear towards a more Western, service sector-oriented economy. The immediate effect is high inflation, especially in the past few years. In big cities like Tbilisi and Batumi, you may get sticker shock if you expect the Strip to be a low-cost getaway. Joining one of the organized day tour is an efficient way to explore the country because a 3-hour drive radius can cover most of the destinations wherever you start from. That's it for my Turkey and Georgia trip. Thank you for watching.